bring out our opinions on what we think can be done in as far as the report that was recently launched by the Blockchain and Emerging Technologies Task Force. So, so the group leaders should be in different desks, and then I think the leaders will also be guiding the members on how to go about discussing the individual topics that are there.
The purpose of today's event is to get to hear your voices. We want to know what are your thoughts on the report. All of us here are already working within the blockchain field. The report came out, and it's going to be implemented. We want to have a living report. Yeah, we want this to be an organic document. So one way to make sure that it's an organic document is to get all of us to be involved, to get our voices already in the report. So what we want to do is to align ourselves with what the government is already doing. They've done a very good report, very comprehensive, with a good breakdown of how they plan to roll out the blockchain activities. But we also have members who are already active in different fields. We have members who are already active, who are already having activities within the healthcare industry, but the government does not know them. Yeah? There are people who already have activities, for example, in real estate organization, but the ministry does not know them. So how do we align ourselves to what the ministry is going to do and roll out their report?
They're not working.
Capital markets, fintech, financial inclusion, which is basically crowdfunding for local projects, startups, SMEs, payments, and community currencies. So, based on our discussion, we realize that the current situation in regards to this is that, as is currently any form of Bitcoin or crypto kind of related is a non-legal tender or kind of in the gray area, since you cannot actually trade it legally in a bank or in a capital market. And then the problems that we see in this industry is that since it's not regulated and it is not accepted as a legal tender, there are incidences of scams in ICOs, and there are also incidences of whereby people are duped in the systems which are not blockchain related. And then the opportunities we see, the basic opportunities we discussed are the opportunities on the Bitcoin, or rather a blockchain crypto system. So it cuts across all manners of cryptos, be it Bitcoin, Ethereum, EOS, or with any other crypto that is to be formed. So we went on the main points, which is, the main one was that it is not reflected by inflation. Since you know the normal money you have in your pocket is actually affected by inflation and something we call exchange risk. For example, if people exchange dollars in China is different from the way you exchange dollars in Kenya. And then the other part is that the best opportunity is digital currency, which we should celebrate in Kenya because we have M-Pesa. Can I get a year? Yeah. So that's an opportunity to actualize. We have digital currency.
Governance. We decided to go with government and what government can do in general. And so here goes what we discussed. Matters to do with situations and problems. During our discussions, we observed that a lot of government activities are done in silos. And each government handles its own activities on its own. I'll cover through observations through, so solutions, problems, opportunities and activities, results and timelines. The issue of silos, our first point was in elections. You can implement blockchain technology in elections. This will help the governance process of the election process. I think you are aware of the challenges that we face as a country. Record keeping. We felt that there are a lot of challenges with records. This goes hand in hand with data governance. If blockchain technology is implemented, we can ensure that our records are kept intact, no duplications. Once again,
points: real estate, housing, construction, and land. So first, real estate and housing. So one of the issues that we saw in real estate and housing in the current market, it's actually very prohibitive and really at the mercy of the lenders. So some of the things that we saw, opportunities that we saw with regards to this is, with regards to illegal planning approvals, we could just have a transparent and inclusive database that actually brings in both the developers, the residents of that area, and the planning officials, so that everyone is on board in knowing what projects are being approved or being built in your neighborhood. France, they just sold a 10-year government bond and for 10 billion euros, and half of that bond is priced at negative 0.13%. Basically, investors are paying the French government to hold their money. Basically, and developers here are actually doing profitable projects with positive returns. So there's a gap whereby Kenyan developers could actually structure projects with maybe $2, $3, $4% return and find a way of bringing that money into the economy to do their projects, which will lower the cost of development, increase their margins, and actually help them push a product.
And we split these problems into two major problems. Not really a problem, but how's the situation like right now? First situation is companies are saving their data in silos. We have this from the governance team, whereby since each and every person is storing, each and every single player in a supply chain wants to store their own data in probably a computer folder or wherever, because you just have independent systems within your organization. And then when you have very big brands, they always use shared databases, because at the end of the day, you want to store transactional data between you and your other partners. For instance, if it's Taskis, it definitely needs transactional data between Taskis and the suppliers playing with Taskis. Now, these shared databases are pretty much shared between these two companies, and they're not usually tamper-proof, yet these companies might have competing interests. And then on top of that, on the current situation, we talked about the records that come with supply chains. This could be regulatory records, because you're still thinking a lot of regulation coming in. Think about food and how much regulations you need to. Export and import industries are already supposed to work with regulators in transparent ways. They're already forced to go through transparency at checkpoints such as ports. So it's easy for them to adopt blockchains because the competing interests are already regulated with current systems. Second thing, we talked about regulators in industries that are in need of high transparency, such as food, jumping in, but I'd let the food team talk more about this. And lastly, there's different solutions, and you should all go check out a company called Block Shipping that finds different ways you can always improve efficiency of shipping using blockchains. But yes, once we test it out with trade finance, export and imports, it's easy to see how this might come down and play in a local ecosystem, and what sort of trade-offs and how we can balance the trade-offs between the business ecosystem and the regulatory ecosystem. So let me jump into that sort of how can we implement this.
In terms of current situation, we have a situation where in this country we have glut,
and then within a very short time we have scarce. And the reason why we have both and is because we do not have, the government does not have enough data. There's a whole broken supply chain system in terms of inputs, and in terms of knowing how much we have harvested and how much is needed in the industry. So in this country we live in a world where in January and February the government wants to give subsidized fertilizers to farmers. They don't know how much is needed, and then they give fertilizers. Then we have harvest towards September. Then they say the granaries are full, so they can't buy any more maize from farmers. And then 2 months later, now we don't have enough maize, so we need to import maize. So the reason we have that is for two reasons. One is either because of corruption, and two, because there is a disconnected supply chain. So the opportunities are through blockchain, the supply chain in terms of inputs can be streamlined, or can actually be created and streamlined, so that the government knows exactly how much fertilizer is needed by which farmers and at what point. And also through the same chain, where we have gluts, through the blockchain, they can match the demand with the supply that is in the country in terms of the maize yields that are there, so that we don't have a scenario where we have people who have 10,000 bags and we have others who do not have, and we find ourselves at a situation where we need to import. The other one is how long we hope this one would work, probably in terms of the results. This one is purely on political goodwill. The reason why we have a disconnected supply chain is because there are people who are benefiting from it, and these are powerful policies. So this one is
certain radius. They don't communicate, as a lot of you have mentioned, silos. There's also overcharging of drugs, especially if you're under insurance, misdiagnosis from doctors, long waiting times to seek medical attention, poor patient data management, rogue doctors, and lack of facilities and equipment. But the biggest issue is also lack of technical expertise in technology, especially in the healthcare. So, problems. The situations and the problems are kind of the same. And then what do we want to address? We want to address transparency, accountability, security, effectiveness, efficiency, scalability, and immutability. So from transparency, accountability, and security, we wanted better patient data management. So especially in terms of diagnosis, treatment, and doctor qualification, integration management systems, which they lack. I mean, that's why we saw year one more awareness on the applicability of blockchain in the healthcare space, proof of concepts, digitization of medical records, and also professional bodies, policies to improve the blockchain in the healthcare ecosystem, to simplify and build capacities for, to simplify blockchain and to build capacities for healthcare professions, because I know if you go to hospitals, they'll tell you, we don't, they're first they're no doctors, and then you want to take these doctors to go learn about blockchain. It's just, so we need to simplify it and also build the capacities, especially in the IT departments. Year two, creation of infrastructure to support and support better medical.
We were speaking about culture, sports, arts and culture with regard to blockchain technology and just processing the task force report. So, what are some of the overall challenges in the current situation as we have it right now? So with the media industry, and this just really cuts across sports, culture and the arts, as we've noticed, there are regulatory hurdles. That means licensing fees, bodies that support frameworks for artists. We have very huge regulatory gaps, and that follows in terms of policy frameworks. We don't see advancements in terms of policy to support even upcoming artists, and this translates to the young person not being able to see the arts as a viable career. It just means that you have to keep telling young people, pursue this as a passion, not necessarily as a career, or they have to take it as a side hustle, and we need to see that as a huge challenge. The other thing is that we have investment gaps, both in private sector and government. We have challenges in fragmentation, whereby you have one production body standing among its own, within its own infrastructure, another production body and so on, record labels and so on and so forth with the same. We don't necessarily have a huge umbrella body that artists and even sculptors can look to and see that I know these people have my back. We also have challenges in terms of cultural diversity, whereby you're not able to scale your art to other cultures or other communities. You might have to translate your art into another language, and you're not always sure that you'll get support within other communities and other cultures, and people will accept your art or your product in that regard. And we have challenges with regard to transparency and openness. So that just means that as an upcoming artist, sometimes
on behalf of the EOS Nairobi community, I would like to thank the Chair and the Executive Board of the Blockchain Association of Kenya for this rare opportunity to contribute to a matter of great national importance. The community would like to congratulate you for the great job you have been undertaking in making the space vibrant, as well as organizing this forum for feedback and ideas exchange. This rare moment in the history of the nation and the blockchain community in Kenya holds the promise of impacting the societal tone for development versus stagnation for the next 30 or so years. The task that is setting correct policy for a future that is fast approaching. Finally, we will also wish to thank each dedicated individual community member, the teams and organizations which are part of our community or have been partners of the community. And we would also like to congratulate them for being covered in the report. Many thanks to the task force for highlighting these powerful use cases of distributed ledger technologies, which we believe, if implemented with political goodwill and statesmanship, will transform our nation and the continent. For reasons we give shortly, we believe the report is balanced, comprehensive, use case specific, and relevant to the current digital transformation. We are glad that the task force came up with several meaningful conclusions, including the following. One, the fourth industrial revolution is here and will cause massive transformations in society. It cannot be ignored by any government looking forward to a bright future for its citizens. None exhibits the potential and transformative power as distributed ledgers and artificial intelligence. That in order to reap the benefits of these technologies, the government needs to, one, invest in a supportive ecosystem, and two, develop effective regulation to balance citizen protection and private sector innovation. Investments in skills development to enable citizens to find and retain jobs in the new digital economy, and investment in infrastructure to narrow the digital divide and promote social inclusion. And this includes the following. One, a regulatory sandbox for application of these two technologies. Two, supportive ecosystems for cross-collaboration. Three, investment in the use of blockchain technology solutions to prove both concept and scale. And four, an emerging brain trust that generates strategies for the government on the use of global emerging technology. And they are the following. One, the land titling roadmap. Public service delivery roadmap. Three, reduction of transaction roadmap. Sharing economy roadmap. Being the lack of mention of industry organizations such as the Blockchain Association of Kenya, the Kenya Bankers Association, the African Blockchain Alliance, and the Africa Digital Asset Foundation been given little consideration. Where the government, in partnership with the Crypto Valley Association of Switzerland, the Swiss Bankers Association, and the Financial Regulatory Authority, have set regulations for industry. We believe there should have been a chapter in the report that covered legal, business, technology, and advisory relations between industry organizations and the government in the achievement of the various goals set in the report. It is important to provide blockchain entrepreneurs with mega spaces, which are free facilities where they can innovate in collaboration with other entrepreneurs. These open workshops that provide access to a range of tools and resources have proven to be an effective method of mass innovation in China. In these spaces, the government can leverage the talent and skills of its youth, many of whom are seated here, to build proof of concepts and use case specific solutions. We believe that the emerging brain trust can be involved in fostering innovation at these spaces. In line with the President's free patenting plan for young innovators and scientists, we believe it will be a positive advancement if this was extended to blockchain and AI entrepreneurs to give them a competitive edge worldwide. The innovators in these spaces will be important in building the blockchain solutions mentioned in the report, including making, as the task force noted, a Kenyan online work powerhouse. 2, improving agriculture and food security through agricultural analytics, agri-token subsidies, and service to track the safety of food and commodity value chains. That was in the report. And then finally, land titling solutions such as Ben-Ben and land labeling. We have provided an exhibit in regards to the makerspaces. Blockchain Association of Kenya members who represent industry should be involved in the brain trust to enable reasonable and targeted investment to security companies and initiatives that will return value add to the Kenyan taxpayer. 3, initial coin offerings or initial token offerings, which are mentioned in the report as a sort of like a way to crowdsource funds, should be included in the Capital Markets Authority regulatory sandbox, or a new sandbox is set up specifically for AI and blockchain technologies. Education should be provided through private-public partnerships to small and medium enterprises on fundraising possibilities with token offerings. And 4, Central Bank of Kenya implements a central bank digital currency. The Capital Markets Authority, in partnership with organizations such as Blockchain Association of Kenya and Africa Digital Assets Foundation, should establish digital assets regulations that encourage industry to thrive while managing relevant risks. In line with other IMF and World Bank countries, which have begun providing clarity around digital assets. The Chinese judiciary now recognizes Bitcoin as a digital property, while the Securities and Exchange Commission in the United States recognizes that Bitcoin and Ethereum are not securities. The UK's financial regulator, the Financial Conduct Authority, says it will not regulate Bitcoin or Ethereum, viewing them as decentralized tokens used as a means of exchange and therefore outside its regulatory scope. So we have also provided 3 exhibits on the same. Major issues. There are several issues that we note in the report that we believe should be given more emphasis. 1 is the security of the national payment gateway, which will aggregate all digital bank and mobile money transactions